Welcome to Innovation Insights, where we discuss best practices in the world of innovation. Joining me today is Stantec's Vice President for Indigenous Business and Relations, Erin Bradley. Erin, welcome.
Thank you.
So I'm curious, what was the catalyst that led to your role leading Stantec's Indigenous business and relations efforts?
A changing landscape for Indigenous peoples, a lot more economic opportunity, and interest from our clients, both in the public and private sector, to have more Indigenous inclusion in their projects.
So what exactly does your role involve on a day-to-day basis?
We have three main goals within the Indigenous Business and Relations team. The first is to grow and maintain the corporate Indigenous Relations program. We also house our 13 Indigenous partnership companies, which are separate entities. Thirdly, we support business developers and project teams all across the organization with Indigenous inclusion.
So why is the dialogue between Stantec and Indigenous communities important?
Relationships are critically important in this work, and you can only build those relationships through sustained dialogue over time. Indigenous peoples have an opportunity now to be at the table and have their voices heard in a way that they haven't in a very long time, and we're seeing a very rapid shift out there. So we need to innovate how we are going to be approaching communities, how we're going to be delivering projects, and how we're going to be addressing our own journey of reconciliation within Stantec.
Can you give us a concrete example of where this dialogue led to a successful outcome?
Our buildings team, for example, who work on schools for First Nations, and they take an approach where they're integrating those conversations at every level of the community, not just with teachers and administrators, but getting down into the student body, the elders, and all of the end users of these facilities. Working with Peerless Trout Nation up in northern Alberta, they undertook this kind of process and really spent the time engaging with students who had some very particular requests for the school, one of which was they wanted to have a second story because there are no two-story buildings in the entire community. And for them to have stairs up to a second level would just be really something special. And although the funding was only provided to build a one-story school, our team was able to take that back to Indigenous Services and get the funding needed to create a little kind of a book nook in the library where kids could climb the stairs and have their own little haven.
Do you have an example of maybe where that dialogue presented some challenges, and what did you learn from that experience?
It can be much easier to destroy trust than build trust in communities, and so certainly you have to be cautious about how you're approaching interactions in Indigenous communities. There are a lot of wounds that are still quite open, and as I said, there can be a lot of distrust. A lesson we've learned is that we need to develop and nurture relationships over the long term, because if you don't do that, you're not going to be front of mind, and Indigenous communities are making decisions even on large-scale projects with our private clients, and if they don't know or trust Stantec, they may tell those clients we don't want to work with them, and we can be immediately dismissed from a project opportunity that we may have been in the forefront to win.
Erin, I learned a lot from this conversation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.